How do, and welcome back. This is take 2, so I've already poured the beer, I'm afraid. This is my Kveik raw ale. And it's really nice. Nicely carved. This has been about 2 weeks, coming up for 2 weeks in the bottle. I bottled it just before I went on holiday. So it's just a couple of days shy of being 2 weeks, maybe 12 days now in the bottle. It's beautifully carved. I've carved it at normal room temperature. What I usually do is actually keep the bottles, if I'm using Kveik, keep the bottles at the temperature you brewed at, and it's usually carved in a day or two. But with this, going on holiday, I kept them at room temperature, and that's a lovely carbonation to it now. Fortunately, there is no juniper berries in this one, because I didn't filter before I bottled. So some bottles do have some juniper berries in, but not this one. So essentially, it's extra light dry malt extract, and I used extra light because a bit of my research, I found out that a lot of the Norwegian farmers use Pilsner malt. So I used extra light dry malt extract, and this was added to 12 litres of water, brought it up to about 75 degrees, and then I added 70 degrees it was, sorry, and then I added an ounce, or about 28 to 30 grams of juniper berries that I crushed with a pestle and mortar, broken them up. And also some specialty grains, which was just a light crystal malt, and they steeped in the wort, because I also added the malt at that time. They steeped for half an hour. I then took out the specialty grains. They were in hop sock. The junipers I just put in loose, and then I added I forgot how much, I think it was about 15 grams of SARS, because it's only a 12 litre batch, so 15 grams of SARS, and I let them steep for about 20 minutes, something like that, and then that was it. That was the beer done. No boil. Everything was around about the 70-75 degree mark, and it's turned out bloody well. But the juniper berries I left in, so I didn't filter them out when I transferred into the fermenter. So the juniper berries were in the beer right from the start, right through to the end of fermentation. And you're really picking up a nice juniper flavour. It's not overpowering though, but it's definitely there, and it's definitely there in the aroma as well. There is a really nice, as well as a little bit of SARS, there's also this nice juniper aroma to it. Okay, I'm going to take a taste, and I'll tell you what it tastes like. Oh, before I do, it's very hazy, as you would imagine. It's a raw beer. So yeah, it's very hazy. It's got an orange tinge to it. Looks like a hazy IPA or a neep or something like that. Well, it's not as hazy as that actually. There's a shadow of my hand that I can see through the glass. Right, cheers everyone. Let's take a taste. This is a very light beer. I'm really surprised because it's no boil. So I was expecting something a little bit heavier, a little bit smoother, but it's not. In fact, it tastes like a boiled beer, to be honest. Light lagerish in a sense, sort of body, or a very light pale ale type of body. First thing you notice is the carbonation. It just fizzes in your mouth. I used 2 carbonation drops per 500ml bottle, and the fizz just fizzes around your mouth. So nice and effervescent. And then there's a really nice SARS flavour, lemon, a little bit of grassiness, not too much, and then the Voss kicks in, the Voss Kvike, which gives a lovely orange flavour to this beer. So it's like the lemony Saaz flavour first, then the Kvike comes in, the orange flavour, and it's not bitter, but the juniper, which is there in the background, does give it a dryness and a little bit of bitterness, because juniper does have a bittery flavour, and you're picking that up. So it's not bitter in the sense of a hot bitterness like isomerization. It's bitter because of the juniper. You're just picking up a little bit of that bitterness, but it doesn't actually, when you swallow, it's not like a hot bitterness there. However, what you're left with in the mouth is the juniper, and that has a dryness to it. So it does it. It's hard to explain. It's not dry when you swallow, but what's left in the mouth is dry. If that makes sense. You've got a dry mouth afterwards. This will be an excellent spring summer beer. Light-bodied, fizzy, citrusy, nice little hint of the juniper in the flavour. Nice dry finish, very refreshing. This, I mean, it's about 5%, but it doesn't taste it. I mean, you could quaff this easily in just a few minutes. What a nice beer. What a nice beer for spring and summer. And I'm surprised it just doesn't taste like a raw beer. I was expecting a much heavier body, that smoothness, but it's not. There is some malt there, a little bit of like a light biscuity, light bready sort of flavour, but nothing that you wouldn't get from a boiled beer. So probably that's because I used extra light. If I'd used light dry malt extract, I would probably got a bit more body to it. But with extra light, it just tastes like a normal beer that's been boiled. I'm happy with that. I quite like it. The head's knocking around. Just a little cap. When you first pour it, as I say, this is the second take. It was like this big. But it's sticking around, a little cap on the top of the pint. Which you would imagine, because obviously it's full of protein. It hasn't been boiled off, hence the haze. That is a really nice pint. And so much better than the first attempt with that Horningdal. I don't think I'll ever use that yeast again. It was horrible. Oh, this is nice. Right, well, I've got to go and clean a fridge now, because I've got like a tabletop fridge. I've got a few salamis and I want to hang them in this fridge, but I haven't used it for a while, so I want to give it all a good clean out and sanitize it, and then I'll hang my salamis. I've got 3 salamis and 3 French saucisson style sausages. What I've been doing today is jarring up my dehydrated mushrooms. At the weekend I found some mushrooms on sale, half price, so I bought about 3 or 4 pundits of mushrooms. They were close to the shelf life, you know, so you'd only have a day's worth, even if you kept them in the fridge, and they'd start to go, you know, that slimy texture that the mushrooms get when they start to go off. But the great thing about drying them is these will last at least a year now in the jars. I've got about 4 jars worth. And what's great about dried mushrooms is that when you cook with them, you don't need as many, because the flavour, this is just the white mushrooms you get in supermarkets, the closed cup white mushrooms, the cheap ones, which usually taste a little bit bland. You dry them and then obviously you rehydrate them before you use them. The flavour goes through the roof. I'm telling you, they start to take on almost like a wild mushroom taste, and the texture, they become much more meatier and much more firmer. And of course the water that you rehydrate them in is a stock. You've got yourself a mushroom stock, which you can put in your casserole, you know, put in your bolognese or whatever you're cooking. But yeah, I swear by dried mushrooms. And they only take about 10 hours, 12 hours in a dehydrator. Just slice them about 1 centimetre or just under, lay them out, give them about 12 hours, 10-12 hours at 50 degrees C, it's about 125 Fahrenheit, and you put them in jars, keep them in your cupboard out of sunlight. I also put a silica gel in, a food grade silica gel sachet, and they'll stay like that for years, absolute years. These won't. These will be gone in about 6 weeks. That's why I don't dry them as much as most people. Most people dry them till they just crumble in your hands. These haven't been dried that much because I know I'm going to be eating them in the next six weeks, 2 months. But when you think about, there was probably only 2 or 3 days shelf life left. If you just put them in the fridge as normal, you'd have only got a day or two's worth out of them. Whereas now I've got 2 months worth. Well, 12 months worth actually, but I'll eat them in 2 months. So I finished doing that. I'm going to go and clean my fridge. I'm going to put all these salamis in. My saucisons they're partially dry now. They're halfway there. The salamis, which I made at the weekend, they've fermented nicely. They've got a really nice bright red colour. Just been hanging in the kitchen. I hang all my meats in the kitchen. I don't know what my wife thinks, but so they're ready now to go in the fridge as well. And so once I get this fridge clean, I can hang up all my sausages and job's done. I'm actually thinking of getting one of those wine fridges, because they actually regulate humidity as well as temperature, so you can get humidity control as well. So I'm thinking of getting one of them. Bloody expensive, even for just a tabletop one. It's like, Jesus Christ, it's like 150 quid. I think that tabletop fridge was about 40, 50. Anyway, that's what I'm up to. I hope you have a great day, and this is a success. This is a really good beer. I'll probably be brewing it again closer to summer when we get the really hot days. And it'd be really refreshing, sat out in the garden with a nice citrusy Norwegian raw ale. Cheers, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye bye for now.